Hey guys, Frank here, the couples counselor. I want to share with you today the traits of negative patterns and toxic communication between you and your wife. What are the traits of a toxic communication, right? Toxic communications that is going on between you and her, where you get into an argument or you get into a conflict on a continuous, habitual space. Every time you have a conversation, some way, somehow, this conversation that's just a simple conversation gets really escalated, right? Today I want to talk about what are the four things, and this is so important. I want to spend some time on identifying what are the things that we need to recognize that is toxic in our communication. Because if these four things are not identified, and then later on we'll talk about solutions in another video, but if these four are not identified and confronted or mitigated with, then it'll run over your marriage. It'll run over your marriage. Sue Johnson calls it the negative cycle, the patterns that we have. And so I want to talk about today, what are the toxic communication patterns, the negative patterns that we have in our relationships that leads to an injured relationship between you and your wife. We got to identify. In another video, I'm going to talk about how we can identify that cycle. How can we begin to, what do we do? How do we can identify that cycle, that pattern? Well, we need to identify here, what are the traits of toxic communication in relationships. Dr. John Gottman calls it the four horsemen. And the four horsemen because in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, it talks about the end times, the coming of the Messiah. And in these, when you can tell the coming of the Messiah is going to happen, just like how a woman is about to give birth, right? She has these birth pains that she experiences in her body that says, oh, I'm about to give birth. In the same way, the Bible talks about the end times drawing near, and when we can tell the end times drawing near by these four horsemen, right? And so in the same way, when it comes to relationships, we need to be able to identify the four things that, if not mitigated, it will lead to a dissolvement of the marriage, aka divorce, separation. And you may be feeling a separation but not divorce, but if you're feeling that distance between you and her happening right now. And so if we need to identify those things. I'm sure you feel it in your body. You're feeling it right now in your body, the dissonance, the tension inside of you when you and her get at it, right? I want to talk about that and bring it to light, explicitly bring it to light, and show that, hey, these are the things that we need to address, because if we don't address these things, it will lead to divorce. So what are the four things? What are the four negative patterns that we see in relationship, especially through research, right? And so the first thing is criticism. Criticism is where we talk about name calling or blaming. You always do this. It's because of you, right? We begin to blame her. We blame our partner because of the state of the marriage or because of this thing went wrong. We blame her. It's always blaming, name calling. Maybe you're saying things in your head, or maybe you're explicitly sharing things like, you're so dumb. You always do this. You always never. Always blaming and criticizing. Criticism is one of the toxic traits and strategies that we see in relationships. And the second thing is defensiveness, being defensive, where we see things such as, you're the problem, right? You're the problem. I'm not the problem. You're the problem. This is what you always do, right? We get into that. You always. And so we become defensive. And whenever she brings something up, we get defensive. We put up this wall, this barrier, and it's like, it's not me, it's you. You're the problem. This is what happens when you do this, right? And we become defensive, and we don't take responsibility, and so we point the finger, so to speak. And so we say something to the effect of, you're the problem, or we can flip the switch and say, take a victim stance of defensiveness, a victim stance where we like, yeah, you're right, I'm always wrong in this. You're right, I'm always wrong. Yep, I don't always do the right thing. I don't always say the right stuff. Yep, you're right, I'm wrong. And we just kind of play it that way. We play that card. It says, no, I'm always wrong. Yep, exactly. That's why I'm wrong. I'm always wrong in this. And we play that defensive stance of and taking the victim stance. and just taking the blame on us, right? And it's understandable, and we'll talk about that in another video. But defensiveness is a second strategy, a second tactic of a negative pattern. The other one is contempt. Contempt basically says, I am better than you. I'm greater than you. I'm always punctual. I'm always on time. I'm always clean. I'm always organized. You're not. You're the messy one. You're the one that causes us to get late. You're the one. You're the reason why I don't start these fights. You always do that, right? And maybe we don't say that. Maybe we do, but maybe we don't say it, but we think it inside of our minds. The thing about this is that contempt is the best predictor of dissolvement and divorce. And so once we reach this stage of communication patterns and negative cycles and negative patterns, this place of contempt, and this is not mitigated, this is where a lot of people end in divorce. Right here, contempt. It's not always like level 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just when you see these 4 things, right? There's no level of priority. It's just when you see these 4 traits in your marriage, right? If contempt is one of those things that's loud and proud in your relationship between you and her in the communication style, this is the single best predictor of divorce. Right over here, contempt. Looking down, condescending, I'm better than you. You're looking down at your wife. When you have that mindset, mentality, and your words are coming up that way, watch out. Please do something different, right? Because that's dangerous. We'll talk about that again in another video on what are the strategies and tactics for each one of these moves. And the last one here is stonewalling. See, stonewalling, basically what that means is when a partner withdraws, or they turn away, or they go into this place called flooding. Let me talk about each one. Withdraw is when they tune out. Maybe one partner is talking, wife is talking, and as a husband, I just turn away and I don't say anything anymore. I just tune out. I don't want to say anything, because if I say anything, it's going to make this problem worse between me and her. If I say anything, it's going to cause an argument to get more worse. Something I'm going to say is I'm going to regret saying, and I don't want to add more fuel to the fire. So I just withdraw, I turn out, I tune out, and I tone down. Or I turn away. Right? My wife is talking to me, and I just turn the other way, and I just tune out. I look out the window, I just go quiet, and she might even say things such as like, why aren't you saying anything? Don't you care? Why aren't you listening? What, you don't care about us anymore? You're not going to fight for us, right? However, that move of just withdrawing and turning away, the reason why the person withdraws and turns away is because they don't want to say anything and cause more distance and more hurt in the relationship. And that's the way a guy would basically, or a person who stonewalls, that's the way he protects his heart and protects the relationship from getting any more worse. And it makes sense why he would do that. However, the wife that is pursuing and attacking, and I put in the air quotes, attacking, because she's not trying to hurt him, is just her way of trying to show how much she loves him and try to connect with him. And so she would get louder, maybe use more pointed words, whatever it is. But the partner would withdraw, and sometimes will turn away. Most times will turn away. And sometimes there's experiences of what's called flooding. In the stonewalling experience, there's this part about flooding. Flooding is, physiologically speaking, what happens sometimes is you feel that in your body. Maybe for some, their heart starts to race. Maybe for some, they get heat behind their head, or their head starts spinning, right? Their heart starts to race, and they go quiet, or they squeeze up, right? They tense up. Maybe they clench their jaws. Maybe their shoulders get tight. Whatever it is, their heart starts to race, or they start tearing up, right? And so that's what flooding means. And physiologically, if I was to put a heart from what's it called? Anyway, when you go to the doctor and they put that thing on your finger, it measures your rate, your pulse, your heart rate. If I was to put that on top of your finger, right, we would see your heart rate go up. You would see your blood pressure go up. It's a physiological experience that you're having in that flooding moment because of this pursuing and attacking from your partner, your wife or whatnot, maybe your husband, right? And so there's that experience as well. And if each of these are not mitigated, if each of these, there's not something done to confront these and to de-escalate these strategies, it will end in divorce, dissolve, separation, a huge emotional gap between you and your wife. And so it's worth identifying these 4 traits and asking and just observing, do these 4, criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling, do these things happen in my marriage? And if they do, stay tuned. I'm going to have a video about how to confront each and every one of these 4, because again, these 4 leads to just injurious relationships, stress, anxiety, depression. All these things occur in marriages, and people go crazy, and it leads to hurting of the kids. If you have kids in your family, right, your kids will see this pattern. And the hard thing is this: if you don't take care of these things, this is where we talk about generational cycles. These patterns will be passed on to your kids, and they will begin to find a partner who does this, or they will do these themselves. And so this needs to be confronted, dealt with, seeking support in responding to these things. All right, if you've been enjoying these videos, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel so that way you get the notifications of videos. You can also like it. This helps promote the video. Share this with others, your friends and family. This helps promote these videos that will speak into relationships. And as I always say, if I can minister and encourage and help and support and serve marriages, I can help the family. If I can help the family, I can help the community. All right, hope this helps. Take care.